The night was heavy with rain, the kind that painted the city in silver streaks and echoed like tiny drums against the brick walls of narrow alleys. Streetlights flickered in patches, struggling to cut through the haze of water and fog. Most people hurried home, umbrellas bending against the gusts, but in one forgotten alley, time seemed to pause. A man stood at the mouth of the alley, tall, sharply dressed in a black suit, though the rain had plastered his hair and soaked his shoulders. He didn't belong here. His polished shoes splashed in puddles where rats scurried and stray cats pawed through trash bags. His face was unreadable, his jaw clenched, his eyes fixed ahead. He had spent his life in boardrooms, penthouses, and chauffeured cars. Yet tonight, he walked these wet cobblestones with a different purpose. He was not here as a CEO. He was here undercover. And then he saw her. A young woman stepped out of the back door of a small restaurant, her apron still tied, her hair damp and sticking to her face. She moved quickly, glancing around as though she carried a secret. In her hand was a small paper bag, folded tight, tucked carefully against her chest. She thought no one noticed, but his eyes followed her every step. He frowned. Stealing food. He thought. The manager's words from earlier echoed in his mind, we lose inventory every night. Someone's taking leftovers. We suspect the waitstaff. He had come to see the truth for himself, never expecting what he was about to witness. The waitress didn't head home. Instead, she slipped into the narrow alley, her boots splashing through puddles until she stopped near a brick wall where two small figures huddled together. Children. Two little ones, no more than 6 or 7, sat curled against the wall, shivering under the relentless rain. Their clothes were thin, their small hands rubbed against their arms for warmth. The waitress knelt beside them. "Shoo, it's okay," she whispered, her voice soft but firm, the kind of voice children instantly trust. She opened her bag and pulled out 2 pieces of bread, the crust slightly hard from the day but still precious in a night like this. She handed one piece to the older child, who looked at her with wide, hungry eyes. The younger one hesitated, shy, but when she smiled and tore the bread gently in half, placing it in their little hands, he took it, clutching it as though it were treasure. The man in the suit froze. His chest tightened as he watched. She wasn't stealing for herself. She was stealing for them. The waitress brushed the wet hair out of the younger child's face, then shrugged off her own thin jacket, wrapping it around the older one. Her shirt clung to her skin in the rain, but she didn't seem to care. Her only concern was these children, strangers she owed nothing to, yet loved as though they were her own. The man's throat tightened. He had seen countless charity galas, written million-dollar checks. Sat in rooms where applause followed donations, but he had never seen kindness like this. Quiet. Hidden. Sacrificial. For a moment, he wanted to step forward, to reveal himself, to thank her for reminding him what humanity looked like. But he stopped. Something inside told him this moment wasn't about him. It was about her. About the truth of who she was when no one was watching. The children began eating slowly, savoring each bite. The waitress stayed with them, crouching in the rain, her knees sinking into the wet ground. She told them a story, about a bird who carried crumbs back to her nest to feed her babies, even though she was hungry herself. The children giggled, their small voices echoing faintly in the alley. For a moment, the storm outside didn't matter. The men leaned against the wall, hidden in the shadows, but inside, a storm raged louder than the rain. He thought of his own life. The penthouse suite, the chef-prepared meals he sometimes didn't even touch, the expensive wine poured and wasted. And here was a waitress, earning barely enough to survive, risking her job to feed 2 children who weren't even hers. His fists clenched. He remembered scolding his staff in boardrooms for waste. He remembered shouting about profit margins, about efficiency, about numbers on screens. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, he wasn't looking at numbers. He was looking at humanity. The rain poured harder, but she stayed. She brushed crumbs from the children's cheeks, then gently kissed the younger one's forehead. Her voice cracked a little when she said, "You're not alone. I'll come back tomorrow, okay? You'll eat again. I promise." And the men knew she meant it.